Hello, Dr. D, and welcome. This is Valeria Garcia, and today I am presenting on decarbonization pathways, clean energy portfolios, and regional transition strategies for introduction to sustainable design. In this presentation, I'm going to walk through the critical necessity of decarbonization, evaluating key renewable and clean energy tools available today, and analyze how two distinct nations, such as China and Indonesia, are putting these strategies into action on the ground. I hope you like my presentation. To understand where we need to go, we first have to look at where we are right now. Since the Industrial Revolution, humanity's reliance on organic fossil fuels has triggered exponential greenhouse gas emissions. This atmospheric pollution is actively fueling global warming and amplifying the severity and frequency of devastating natural disasters globally. Transitioning away from carbon is no longer optional, it is actually a matter of long term survival. The energy sector stands as the single largest contributor to global carbon emissions. As the Alliance for Innovation and Infrastructure points out, any functional path forward requires structural shifts in our infrastructure. We must balance aggressive emissions reductions with the absolute necessity of maintaining stable, affordable energy supplies to keep the global economy moving. So, how do we define decarbonization? Well, decarbonization is the systematic decoupling of human economic development from greenhouse gas emissions. Rather than merely shutting down carbon heavy facilities, it represents a complete structural overhaul. It demands lowering the carbon intensity of every single unit of energy produced, such as substituting emitting assets with renewables, integrating smart utility grid infrastructure like battery storage, and aggressively electrifying hard to abate sectors like heavy manufacturing, transit, and aviation. This transition relies on three core pillars. Number one, fuel switching, which is shifting power generation and industry away from coal, oil, gas towards solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and biomass. Number two, efficiency and storage, pairing renewables with smart grids and energy storage so variable sources can reliably replace fossil base load power. Last but not least, policy and markets. Using carbon taxes, subsidy reform, feed in tariffs, and binding national targets to make clean energy the economically rational choice. When we look at our decarbonized energy portfolio, solar and wind lead the charge, but they come with clear trade offs. On the advantage side, we are technological solutions by nature. This means their generation costs drop exponentially as science and manufacturing advance. Modern wind turbine generation consumes virtually about zero water during operation, averaging around 1 kilogram per megawatt hour, and statistically, solar and wind are recognized as two of the cleanest and safest power generation methods globally. However, the disadvantages are real. Generation is intermittent and dependent on natural weather conditions, requiring robust battery storage systems to guarantee great reliability. Additionally, top wind and solar sites are often located in remote regions, demanding massive capital investments in new transmission grid lines to reach population hubs alongside a heavy reliance on complex mineral supply chains. Beyond solar and wind, we have several other critical energy technologies. Clean hydrogen burns with zero carbon byproducts, making it ideal alternative for high heat industrial manufacturing and heavy transport. However, pure hydrogen isn't naturally occurring. Producing it requires significantly electricity alongside costly specialized pipeline and storage buildouts. Nuclear base load power provides a massive scale carbon free electricity continuously, bypassing weather intermittency altogether. It draws back include extremely high upfront capital costs, extensive regulatory bottleneck, and persistent public anxiety regarding radioactive waste management. Geothermal energy offers highly reliable, constant baseload output independent of weather, particularly in volcanic regions, but it remains geographically restricted to specific underground reserves and carries high initial exploration and drilling costs. Lastly, biomass utilizes agricultural and municipal waste, supporting rural economies while reducing waste volume. However, combustion still releases carbon dioxide, competes for land and food production, and faces feedstock supply inconsistencies. Now, let's examine how national policies translate these technologies into reality, starting with China. Under its nationally determined contributions, China has committed to peaking its carbon emissions before 2030 and reaching full carbon neutrality before 2060. China leads global wind markets through aggressive top down policy execution. By implementing structured feed-in tariffs alongside a robust grid parity mechanism, China successfully integrated over 50 gigawatts of onshore wind capacity. This policy framework forcefully scales clean power deployment while driving down international wind turbine manufacturing cost across the global supply chain. Now let's move to Southeast Asia, in a country you may have found familiar, which is Indonesia, presents a very different pathway. So, historically relying heavily on coal and oil, Indonesia's national energy policy established an ambitious target to reach a 23% renewable energy share in its primary energy mix by 2025. Its state owned electricity plans outline dedicated low carbon scenarios utilizing geothermal power, co firing biomass in existing coal plants, and unlocking its immense solar potential. Indonesia is enforcing three aggressive regulatory shifts. Firstly, we have the PLTU coal phase out. The Presidential Decree 112/2022 terminates the operation of all coal-fired steam plants by 2050. Secondly, the subsidy redirections, which are phasing out fossil fuels subsidized to save up to $53 billion annually by 2030, reallocating those funds directly into infrastructure. Last but not least, Carbon Taxation Act 7 2021 enforces a cap and tax carbon pricing scheme initially targeting coal power entities. To conclude, decarbonization is not relying on a single technology. It requires a balanced portfolio of solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and biomass matched to each country's unique resources and economic needs. Indonesia and China illustrate two distinct pathways. subsidy reform, and structured coal phase outs versus a large scale wind build outs backed by binding purchase mandates and fit in tariffs. Meeting Paris Agreement goals will require faster, more consistent implementation worldwide. The technology and resource potential already exist. The true gap lies in policy execution, financing reform, and sustained grid investment. This presentation drew upon foundational research from the International Renewable Energy Agency, also known as IRENA, the Alliance for Innovation and Infrastructure, also known as AII, as well as peer-reviewed studies by Maxar et al. In 2024 on Asian wind energy and Ramadan et al. In 2024 on Indonesia's energy transition. Thank you very much for listening.